Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. This is another paid request, this time from Yule. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, it could be a review, a re-review, a topic, a commentary, a reaction, randomness, whatever it may be, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box under pretty much any of these videos. So the topic Yule gave to me was, you have Jaws the Revenge. What if Chief Brody had come back and been in Jaws the Revenge? Now, let's get right into it. Number one, there's no way Roy Scheider would have come back because he hated working on Jaws 2. He hated working with the director of Jaws 2. He didn't really want to do it in the first place, but I think it was a contract thing. He was forced to do it. I think also he was hoping that Richard Dreyfuss and Steven Spielberg would come back, but they were doing, I think, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is a better. I like Jaws 2, but Close Encounters is a better movie. And he's like, I will never, fuck that, never do any Jaws films again. Now, I like Roy Scheider a lot. Jaws 2 I don't think is that bad of a movie. I actually do prefer Jaws 3 though. I'm one of those few that I prefer Jaws 3 over Jaws 2. I like Jaws 2, but the teenagers were boring as hell. I don't give a fuck about their sailing. The sailing the high seas for like 15 minutes, it got boring. Jaws 3 is more fun. You get to see a coked up Dennis Quaid and, SeaWorld. Even the dolphins were coked up in that movie. I love Jaws 3. Jaws 2 I like, but anyway, Roy Scheider is the best part of that movie. Easily. And I also love Blue Thunder with Roy Scheider. 2010, the year we made contact. The sequel to 2001. I think that's a really good sequel. Yeah, 2010, Blue Thunder. Even the bit Roy had in The Punisher in 2004. He did a good job in that. Now, like I said, Roy Scheider would never done a Jaws the Revenge. But let's say Pie in the Sky, they offered him like $10 million. Well, that would never happen. A price he couldn't refuse. But then the trouble you have is, because look at James Bond. Look at Sean Connery. He said he would never play James Bond again. And then that's why the next film, when he did appear in James Bond, was Never Say Never Again, which was unofficial James Bond, but at the same time he was playing James Bond. And that's one of the reasons why it was called Never Say Never Again. So if the price is right, even if you have Roy Scheider back as Chief Brody, you still have the issue of the plot, the story, which is really stupid in Jaws 4 about the, well, in the novel was voodoo, but then they took that out for the movie, and then the shark follows his family to the fucking Bahamas. So you'd have to completely change that story around. Because even if Roy Scheider was in with that story, I'd be like, the shark roaring, you'd have to completely change the story around. Because again, you still have a shark on his tippy toes roaring like a lion. You would still have, at least Roy Scheider would make sense having flashbacks to the first film, unlike Lauren Derry having flashbacks to scenes she was not even in the first film. Like she imagines her husband blowing the shark up when she wasn't there. So at least this, it would make more sense. He would have memories of that. This is what I would do with Jaws 4 if you had Chief Brody back. You have to also remember in Jaws 2, you can't go with the whole thing that no one believes him that the shark is out there, because they already did that in Jaws 2. I think at this point, he's living in the heartland. He's living with his wife in Iowa or Kentucky or wherever, somewhere far away from the water. So he's kind of in the middle of the country, so he's far away from water. He wants nothing to do with water again. He's a sheriff of this small town. Maybe getting ready for retirement. Who knows? I would say of the sons, I forget the names of the sons. The one who Dennis Quaid, I guess that would be like Lance Guest. Like you could have Lance Guest back in, and like Lance Guest, I liked as an actor. I liked him in the last Starfighter, but just better write his character. He's still doing his thing. Doesn't have to be the Bahamas though. But maybe his brother, the younger brother, comes to visit, and you just still have it where the younger brother dies, and the younger brother's killed, and ultimately he's got to tell Chief Brody that, you know, my brother, your son died of this shark attack. So then the tagline, this time it's personal. It's not the fucking shark. It's for Brody. This time it's personal. This time a shark killed one of his own. And then Brody, he's comforting his wife. And he did some really good acting where he's trying to do his job. There's nothing we can do. But they're still looking for the shark. Blah, blah, blah. We haven't found it yet. There's not many sharks in this area. It's some freak accident. And Roy Scheider maybe has nightmares. Maybe he's getting a little bit of, not PTSD, but did a bit of, just, it can't escape out of his head. You play a little bit of that Moby Dick type of thing of obsession, but not to the point he's unlikable and yelling at his wife or anything, but just, he can't quite shake it. And even at his job, like maybe at his job, like there's a guy doing a bad thing, and then Roy Scheider goes overboard. He's like punching him or throwing him, and maybe a little bit back to his French Connection days or the 7-Ups, and whoa, calm down, Brody, what's going on? It's like, my kid's dead. My kid can't have what you have. Okay? You got all your life ahead of you. You're wasting it, you son of a bitch. It's like, hey, you know, maybe you need to take some time off. Him and his wife still love each other, but they need to separate for a little bit. They still love each other, so the wife's gonna go ahead to her sisters, whatever. And then Brody, he decides to go to where, not Amity again, but wherever the location could be. He's there, he's going to visit his son, but then he's show him as a cop. He is a cop, he is a police officer. A little bit of investigation of what's going on, what's happening. And then that's where I don't know where the story, it ultimately ends with him hunting the shark. So it's kind of like he not becomes Quint, but on that little journey where now it's personal, he's on the hunt for the shark. But then that gets into the question of how do you make that different from the first Jaws film? Because there's only so many times you get on the water and there's a damn shark. What more can you do? Unless you go overboard with some kind of crazy plot to make it different. Because again, it's a shark in the water. What else? Is it going to fly? Is it going to teleport? Like, what more can you do with it? And that's why, and people don't groan at this, I think when did the Maid book come out? I'm trying to remember now. I would say take pieces of the Maid, if that had not come out yet, the book. Let's say if you thought of that before the novel, take pieces of that and put that in the story. Where the son works at this base that's a bit underwater as well, and you know, this is Chief Brody's to fish out of water, and this is way above my pay grade, and okay, yeah, you're not in your jurisdiction, or whatever. And they think they caught a shark, but I keep that image I remember in the novel, where a character is in this sort of underwater device, and it's floating. And after this attack, just kind of sit there with no power. I just think of Roy Scheider stuck there, like the worst situation he could be in. Like maybe the guy who's with him is knocked out. He can't wake up no matter what. He doesn't know what to do. Or the guy has been killed, and he doesn't know what to do. So he's with a dead body. He's stuck in this thing. There's no power. He doesn't know what to do. And in the Maid, it was, again, this, I forget what the technical terminology was. In the Maid novel, the person is stuck there, and he sees a light. He doesn't know what that light is. And it comes into fruition as this luminescent type of bigger shark. It's luminescent because of where it's deep underground, its condition is different and changed. And it'd be very hard to make that look good, which is probably why they didn't put it in the movie. But if, like, visualize in your head, it was just, for me, a really cool image. And then how those people think they got the right shark, but it's bleeding. And because it's so much colder, it could die from the weather, but it, like, tears up the other younger shark, and the warmth of the blood cascades. It kind of helps its condition rise up. And but then I'm trying to think, well, how does maybe the spawn of it killed his son, so this is where it came from. This was the origin, and this is what, started it all. See, it's hard to think about without going to parody territory or ridiculous territory. Because then I don't know if you're going into the whole thing, like maybe there's a subplot where, like, how deep do you try to go for a Jaws 4 movie? It's not about who you are, it's about where you come from or who you come from. And how any pain of the source can come back. Like, maybe it's like father against father, so like the father of the one that killed... this is the father of the thing that killed his son, so that's who he's up against, and it's a bigger threat, so it makes it that much more of a crazier situation. And I just think of the ending of the Maid novel, where, okay, Roy Scheider blew a shark up, how about blowing it up from the inside, like with the heart? Like, that would be even crazier. And this is a guy, you're out of your element, like almost John McClane Die Hard, like out of your element. And the one guy that's in this situation to save his other son, because he didn't want his other son to die, like his younger son died. So, like, what's the worst way a place Chief Brody could be in? Inside a shark. Like, it's weird. I thought eventually I'd be in one of these things. Like, he had a nightmare he was eaten by a shark. I can't say I'm surprised. And he's like crawling through, and you see like dead bodies of eaten up bodies, digested bodies, and skeletons, because it's a much bigger shark. And he doesn't know at first because it's dark. And then he feels something dripping on him, and he thinks it's like water, and he realizes blood. I'm not going to look up. I'm not going to look up. But he's got to turn, and he looks up, and there's all these bodies, and he's freaking out. Kind of like when Roy Scheider freaked out at Jaws 2 with the body that came up on him from the water. So I just imagine, like, Chief Brody having to go through all this tunnels of the inner workings of this giant shark and these half-digested bodies on him, and he's crawling through it, and he finds the heart of the thing. I don't know why now I think of like Daylight. Remember Sylvester Stallone? I found your heart. I'm going to bet it is. Like taking out his anger and frustration of his son, and maybe throughout the film he's had either nightmares or he thinks of his son, or I think that scene, if you ever seen Uncommon Valor with Gene Hackman, there's a beautiful scene where he looks over and he sees his son as a kid, he tries to grab it, and then the son disappears, and then Gene Hackman's hand goes like this. I just see Roy Scheider having a scene like that in it earlier on. And so he's taking his frustrations, he plants the explosives, he's got to get out of there, he's stuck in the shark's teeth, the Jaws theme, dun dun, dun 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 dun. The teeth is stuck, he's trying to get through, he's backing up, back and forth, but the teeth is stuck from the top and bottom, and finally he rams one more time, chips some of the teeth, goes through, explosion, from the inside out, like even bigger explosion. And the son finds it, and Roy Scheider lands guest. Yeah, that music from the first movie. Da, 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 na, 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 na. It's personal for Brody, not for the shark. So I would say, again, I wish I knew when the Maiden novel came out. If it had not been written yet, think of those elements and bring that into it. But you have a Chief Brody type of character. And if you could bring back Richard Dreyfuss, that'd be cool as well. Because if this is that type of shark, Dreyfuss character would want to study it. So, I mean, that's the thing. Like Richard Dreyfuss is with Scheider, and Dreyfuss gets knocked out. They can't wake him up, and then he sees this, and then finally Dreyfuss wakes up, and they have no power. And even if they did, they can't do anything. They both watch this thing, and they're working together on this problem. And Dreyfuss saves maybe Lance Guest for some reason, whatever's going on, while Roy Scheider does this to save them all and make this, as revenge for what happened to his son. While that thing was, the younger offspring was the result, this Maid shark was the catalyst for it. I don't know, there's a lot of work that needs to be put in that story, that idea. That's why I would need like a couple other people to shoot ideas off of. But that is what I would rather have seen than a goddamn shark roaring like a lion and Lauren Gary acting piss poorly. Need a bigger budget. Need a bigger shark. Just I don't know what else you could do. I mean, what, you want to make the sharks fly? I mean, there's only so much you can do with a shark in the water. That's why you have all these crazy cheapo movies like Ghost Shark, House Shark, I don't know, Cyber Shark, fucking Computer Shark, whatever the hell. There's only so much you can do with a shark in the water. So, yeah, I would say take inspiration from The Maid. And if it had not come out yet, then I'll go back to the future, take the almanac, sports almanac, and the Maid book, go back and just rip some shit off from it. But put Chief Brody and his son's death being the personal vendetta. That's just me. So with that said, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.